This is going to be one heck of a week in college football. For everybody new around here, my name is Colin Bashingle, the host here at Bash's College Football Show, where we're going to be doing game previews, a bunch of recaps of a bunch of games, doing rankings and Heisman lists throughout the season. But one of the segments that we do is this one. We call it Walk That Line, where we're going to try to walk that line that Vegas sets, and we're going to try to have some success. Just note, in all of these videos, this is not gambling advice. I am not going to ask anybody to tail any of these or whatever. I'm just putting out some plays, trying to be competitive in the best that I can be and display my knowledge and making some of the best picks of the week. But for those of you that haven't been around here, hopefully that will help you out a little bit. You can do whatever you want with your own betting accounts and whatever. We are very excited over here because we started out 1-0. And mind you, I had some games that I considered on this little note sheet, a next tier. And if I read it off to you, Western Kentucky, Sam Houston State over 60.5. That went over. Idaho State plus 30.5. Ooh, you can't see that. Boom. Idaho State plus 30.5. There you go. Kansas minus 14. I actually ended up giving out that play to a friend. And then I also liked Hawaii money line, and in particular, I did want the 2.5. I was going to take the 2.5. Now that ended up hitting because of the 3, but I just was comfortable with money line. So those were 4 things that were like I was about to put it in, but because of all of the preseason win totals that I had in there, I didn't want to force feed you all that stuff. If I would have done it, we'd be 5-0 right now. But as we turn over to Walk That Line, we are 1-0 with a big win as Western Kentucky covered against Sam Houston, whether you got a 9.5, 10, or 10.5. Western Kentucky covered. And my prediction that Maverick McIver would go off in his introduction to Bowling Green, Kentucky, it happened. And the game went very similar to what I was expecting it to go. Here's this week's Walk That Line for the weekday games. We have 10 games to go over, and we're going to start Boise State minus 6 at USF. Couple of things that concern me about USF before we talk about Boise State. I think their perimeter talent is not to the standard that it had been at. I think USF has struggled against these types of teams, and I am very curious to see how they defend this Boise State offense with heavy play action and running the ball. Speaking of running the ball, they're going to be able to run the ball. A very experienced offensive line that underperformed last year. They're going to have a chip on their shoulder this year to play much better. They have Dubar back. They brought in Malik Sherrod. I think they're going to be really good. I think Boise State's offense is going to be just fine. They're going to be tough on defense. Spencer Danielson seems to have this train back rolling. I don't think it was just Nash and Genty thing last year, and I think we're going to learn that with a convincing victory on the road at South Florida Thursday to open the day off. How about this one? NC State minus 11.5 against ECU. A little bit questionable about what ECU's offense is going to look like, and I certainly think that NC State's going to have a chip on their shoulder after how the season went. Now, NC State did bite a lot of people against Western Carolina last year, but that team was very, very disappointing. Then you saw some guys emerge, like CJ Bailey emerged as a new quarterback for them. They also have a couple of weapons in Jolie over there at the tight end spot, and Rogers, the Ohio State transfer, Noah Rogers, over at the wide receiver spot. I think they're going to be really good, or at the very least good enough to cover 11.5 against ECU. This one is one of my favorites. Buffalo plus 18.5. I think they have an outside shot of beating Minnesota. And this line has moved in favor of Minnesota. Watch out for the upset here. This Buffalo team is very solid. The biggest concern I have is their quarterback position, but they're going to be able to run the ball very well. They have a very, very solid wide receiver in Ross. That's a heck of a playmaker. This Buffalo team is also going to play great defense. Watch out for them this year in the MAC. I got Buffalo covering 18.5, maybe even a sprinkle on that money line. Nebraska, minus 6.5 against Cincinnati. I do not trust Scott Satterfield. He has had time to prepare. It's going to be an Arrowhead. It's going to be mostly Nebraska fans. And I think that Dylan Raiola, wannabe Pat Mahomes, is not losing an Arrowhead. Are you kidding me? They're going to win by double digits, in my opinion. I think this game could be close around halftime. The Cincinnati defense, they have one star, and Dante Corleone. Outside of that, very iffy. We'll see what ends up happening there, but I like Nebraska. How about this one? We just did the preview. If you haven't watched it already, I guess this is a little bit of a spoiler, but the preview definitely goes in depth about both teams. So because I dropped the preview, I'm going to be very quick here. I love Georgia Tech -4. I think that they win by double digits, a couple of scores, and I think that they're a much, much better team. Moving on to the second 5 games. Baylor Auburn under 57.5. This is kind of against the grain a little bit. But given the fact that I think this 24-21 type of style of game was Auburn's kind of go-to last year, and on top of that, with all the questions about Auburn's offense, I think their defense is going to keep them in this game to the point where I'm not comfortable enough to tell you Baylor's going to win or you should bet on Baylor, but I think that their defense is going to play well, and I don't have confidence in their offense. So I love the under here. I think the total is going to be under 50. Between 40 and 50 is probably where I'm looking at this game. And I guess we'll see if it hits, but I really love it. How about this one? UNLV, Sam Houston State, over 60.5. We saw both of these teams in week 0. UNLV's defense looked atrocious. Sam Houston State's secondary looked very concerning. UNLV has a lot of wide receiver talent, and Anthony Calandria is good enough to make plays, also good enough to scare you with some turnovers. I also really think that Sam Houston State is going to learn a lot from their offensive performance that started out hot and tapered off against Western Kentucky. So I think we're going to see a lot of points, and I think Sam Houston's going to keep this one close. I think UNLV will survive again, but I think Sam Houston keeps it within 10 points. Let's say they lose 41-38. Something like that. I think it's another high-scoring track meet. I think these defenses are going to be even more exhausted in the second half, given that it's a short week that these two are playing, and they both played some track meets in the last game. So I'm loving the over. I'm loving Sam Houston to keep it close. This is my favorite play of the week, regardless of weekday or weekend. Vegas hasn't adjusted yet to either team. San Jose State should absolutely throttle Central Michigan. I firmly believe that. They are returning a good amount. They hit the transfer portal pretty well. Walker Eggett, they really found something with him at quarterback. And Central Michigan's just an absolute disaster. Their offense wasn't very good last year. They're going to have Joe Labas starting again at the quarterback spot with a first-year coach. And the thing about first-year coaches in week 0, they were 0-4 against the spread. I really think that Coach Drinkel over there at Central Michigan, not been a head coach since he was in the NAIA ranks at Kansas Wesleyan, was an offensive line coach at Army. I think he's going to have a rude awakening here with this first game, and it's at 10:30 for Central Michigan's local time. That's going to be tough. And then finally, this is maybe my least confident one because it's such a big number. And Central Arkansas has, in the last 2 years, been a thorn in the side of FBS programs, Arkansas State and Oklahoma State. I think Missouri is going to throttle Central Arkansas. I think they're going to win by 45, 50 points, like 52-0 or something like that. I expect for this defense to make a massive statement, and I expect for that offense to really take over that game. Maybe you're not comfortable laying a big number, but I'm doing it for the sake of this. So again, let's go over it. Boise State -6, NC State -11. Buffalo is going to cover and keep it within 18.5, maybe even win outright. Nebraska -6.5, Georgia Tech -4. And then you go over here, Baylor Auburn under 57.5, the over 60.5 in UNLV Sam Houston, and I'm taking Sam Houston to keep it within 10.5. San Jose State -11.5 against Central Michigan, and Missouri minus 36.5. Again, if I would have just confidently made all the plays I wanted to make instead of having self-control like a loser, we would have been 5-0. The only game I would have not touched would have been the first one, Kansas State and Iowa State, in which I was on the wrong side of that. So, yeah, we're off to a good start. Even if it's 1-0 technically, I know what the truth is. So, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm not saying I'm an expert and you need to follow my advice after just a 1-0 start to this segment, but we're hoping for more success. So, thank you guys for tuning in. Like the video, and I'll see you guys in